Tom, the big story kind of a couple hours ago, I guess, at least we considered that. I'm not sure how it plays out in the end. All the opposition parties in the House of Commons today voting to basically tell David Johnston to take a hike. They don't want him as special rapporteur. So where does this take us?
Well, it's really, I don't think there's any other word for it. It's a pathetic end to a proud career of someone who has done great service to his country. But this is just unbelievable. It's ironic in the extreme because his mandate is supposed to be about upholding our democratic institutions. He's never been elected to anything. And it's not the legislature, it's not the House of Commons that's giving him this mandate. It's Trudeau. And so he is accepted, despite the fact that his title is the Right Honourable. This is anything but honorable for David Johnston to accept a mandate that goes against the will of the clear majority of the duly elected members of the House of Commons, which is the backbone of those democratic institutions he's supposed to be defending. It's going to go down, and he sees himself as some sort of historical figure. He did that in the Globe and Mail piece. Well, history will judge the work and all this stuff. Look, get over yourself. This is not about you, Mr. Johnson. It's about the defense of our democratic institutions. We know there's foreign interference. We know that we want to get to the bottom of it. Canadians have a right to know. It's not true that there are no examples where Justin Trudeau or his ministers didn't act. We know that in the case of Michael Chong, of Jenny Kwan, an NDP MP from Vancouver, and of course most recently Aaron O'Toole, that there were clear cases that you knew about, you did nothing, and now Mr. Johnson's just going to help continue this cover-up. It is absolutely pathetic.
And the Prime Minister is standing by him. I mean, he's not willing to budge.
Well, this is pure Trudeau. I mean, if Trudeau had any consideration whatsoever, he would not have allowed David Johnston to be put in this situation. But he doesn't care. He'll use up anybody or anything at any time to get what he wants. He just needs to stall this thing long enough to make it to the summer. So the games have already started in the parliamentary committees. One that's called PROC, Procedure and House Affairs. They're going to be doing their own thing to see who could be the person heading up if there were to be an independent study, that sort of thing. I'm still expecting Trudeau to pull the plug. I can't see him allowing these parliamentary committees to go all summer because when you're in a minority government situation, the opposition members of a committee can basically convene that committee at will all summer long and come up with subjects. So they're going to try their best to keep this certainly not on the front page, but certainly in people's minds during the summer months, during the summer doldrums. But I mean, honestly, it's sad as much as anything else because I can't believe that Johnston has put himself in this situation. He's going on again today. Well, this is one of his quotes, the array of work that he could also be doing. What are you even talking about? What array of work? The report that we got basically said, well, Justin Trudeau and his buddies told me that everything was copacetic. Yeah, but did you put any of those people under oath? They all work for him, all of them. But what independent work has been done? What cross-examination was there of any of this evidence? So it's an unbelievable situation, and I'm sad for David Johnston, even though I find it's his fault because he's deciding to proceed. Mm-hmm. But obviously he's got a very different view from the David Johnston I've known in the past.
But Tom, the question I guess people will ask is, given the fact that all the opposition parties got together, this is what they want to have done. I mean, sort of, what weight does this carry? What has to happen? What could happen next? Or can he just stay there as long as he wants?
It has no weight because the only thing that they could have done was make an opposition motion that was a confidence motion. You give the recitals that in the documents that you and I looked at last Friday, and you give the recitals, and then you say, and for that reason, this House expresses that it has lost confidence in the government of Prime Minister Trudeau.
And they're not doing that. They're not going to do that.
Well, no, because I listened to Singh. Singh's rationalization was unbelievable. He said this. He said, well, because, they did such a good job getting this forward. It was well drafted. It was, spot on. The two things, we need the public inquiry, and this guy's got to step aside. Boom. Well done. Then all of a sudden people are saying, but if it's a confidence motion, you're still going to vote for your own motion. Well, that would mean an election. And we can't really have an election in Canada right now until we clear up whether or not we can have good elections because of foreign interference. Alarm bells all over the place. What did you just say? You just said that in Canada, We can't guarantee that we can have a clean election, and therefore you would not bring down Trudeau's government. You would keep them in place, even though they're still trying to hide what happened with the Chinese government interference. You're going to keep them in place because you don't think anything's going to be cleared up. And it was this sort of circular reasoning. There was a fellow named Peter Julian, fine fellow, that I sat with for years, and he was on French TV last night. I don't know what happened to Alexandre Boulay. He didn't seem to be around. And they stuck him on a panel, and it was the same. His stuff was even more bizarre. I mean, it just went around. It was a spiral. It was, he would attack the Bloc. He was on with a Bloc guy and a Conservative, and he had nothing to say, because the only question was, well, are you willing to defeat the government on this? Yes or no? Of course, the Conservatives would love to have an election on this.
Mm-hmm.
The Bloc would love to have an election on
this. But not the NDP.
But not the NDP.
Okay.
Or the Liberals, that's for sure.
Let's move on.
The Liberals, I think they're Trudeau's he's got a lot of moxie, and he's a very determined guy, and he's very got an opinion of his opinions. But at some point, the average Canadian now, even though Pierre Poilievre can be very off-putting, the average Canadian is saying, hey, I want nothing to do with this sort of behavior where you're hiding basic facts about our democracy. This is precious. We're one of the few countries, there are fewer and fewer countries with functioning democracies, and we're not going to put up with a prime minister who's using this to hide things because he knows that it could hurt him.
Mm.
So you had sent along a picture today, Tom.
Yes.
This is a document in Sept-Îles?
Yes, in the courthouse.
Okay, and it basically, well, you can say what it says.
Well, it says that if you have your Aaron Rand historic Anglo T-shirt, maybe we'll talk to you in English.
I think he might be paraphrasing here. Let me read what it says in French. It says, Bonjour, nous sommes ravis de vous servir en français. And then it goes on to say, in French, if you would like to be served in English, there's a barcode on it. You can actually ask to be served in English.
Well,
Is
yeah,
that
you
basically
have to,
it?
It says here's how you can find the exemptions.
As long as you're in one of the categories recognized by Bill number 6. So if you're a historic Anglo, or if you've been here for less than 6 months. But here's the kicker, because that's so you're in the middle of two very large reserves of the Innu Nation, which are Washat, Mak, Maliu, and then just above, you've got a very large Naskapi population. The Innu, the kids all tend to have French, and maybe they speak a lot of English amongst themselves. But when you go higher up with the Naskapi, they've always stayed more with English. So you have to read a sign in French to know that you're allowed to get service in English. But by the way, as the lawyer who sent this to me today was sort of chuckling, saying, of course, there's no English sign telling you that you're entitled to service in English.
Well, there you go.
There's only a French sign.
That's the beauty of this, isn't it?
It is the beauty of this. Welcome to Distinct Land, eh?
By the way, again, if you take the minister, Jean-François Roberge, at his word, this idea about you have to prove you're historic Anglo, if they ask you if you are and you simply go yes, that's a good faith answer. They're not going to check, or they are going to check to see if you can get that service or not. I mean, we don't know.
Well, I would dare say that in a hospital setting, they keep trying to argue that nothing changes. But as Eric Maldov has very cleverly pointed out, when you go into everything that's in 96, it puts a stranglehold on the ability to hire people who have English as one of their languages, and that will make it much more difficult in the future to have English language health and social services in Quebec. With regard to this whole notion of categories and the good faith representation, yes, this is something that Robert's made up out of thin air yesterday, because it's based on nothing, because the law is there, the regulations are there, and it doesn't say anything in there about a good faith statement. It says, 6 months, you're gone. You don't get to have service in English. Is it going to matter in a place like Montreal? Probably not, because there is no ability to dig into it, and they'll just answer you in English, I think, most of the time. But if you're in a place like Sept-Îles, where everybody knows everybody else, and they know that you actually speak French, and you ask for service in English because you're entitled to it, they just won't. And if they think you're not entitled to it, they won't either. And this is why we're living in this cloud cuckoo land. This is Alice in Wonderland. We've created this alternate reality because, frankly, in today's Quebec, take the numbers from the latest census, well over 90% of the people, even in the greater Montreal area, can hold a conversation in French. Sure. We just heard Aaron Rand's great French reading that before. So it's It's the solution to no known problem, which is something that is a subspecialty for François Legault and his government. They just love this sort of stuff. They go out through election campaigns where they say racist things about immigrants, lies about immigrants, and then it turns out that it's not really what they're going to do anyway. And all the numbers that they said were going to be, this was their term, not mine, suicidal for Quebec if we had as many immigrants as the Liberals, for example, were proposing. Lo and behold, that's where Legault's heading. So it's been a tragic use of populist arguments that go against immigrants and minorities, but sometimes its head pops up in the form of something as stupid as this sign in the courthouse today in Sept-Îles.
If you scan that barcode and it takes you to the website with the exemptions, you can click on it and have it in English, so that's encouraging. One of the first lines, however, is in bold letters, French is the common language. French is not only the sole official language of Quebec, but also the common language of the Quebec nation. So the tone is very clearly set.
Parenthesis, you should feel ashamed.
Yeah, speak French.
Anybody here speak English? Can I speak? Anybody else? No? I would like to go. Someone should go to Sept-Îles. I imagine someone will and try this out and see what kind of reaction they get if they just choose to speak English because they believe they have rights.
And, we shouldn't forget about the fact that under Section 133 of the British North America Act, the Constitution of 1867, the one that Legault says he's changed unilaterally, and David Lametti agrees with him, yeah, sure, go ahead and change the Constitution on your own. That clearly says, and it applies in Manitoba, it applies in New Brunswick, and it applies federally, you're in a courthouse, you're getting services, you have to be able to have your services in both official languages. And it's just amazing to me that this is the type of game that Legault's going to play. But don't forget, this is the same François Legault who was famously quoted by Graham Fraser as having once said at his inauguration meeting when he became a candidate for the Parti québécois the first time, les Anglais, les haïs autant que toi. I hate the English as much as you do.
It's going to dog him forever, that quote.
As it should.
Well, with good reason. Because when you say that you hate a group of people, it's not something that people should forget.
He should at least now say, I don't hate them as much as I did then. I think we might feel better if he would
Or
actually
I don't hate
fess
all
up.
of them.
Yeah, not all of them, exactly. Tom Mulcair, back tomorrow morning with Andrew Carter. Thank you, Tom.